I'm Angela Denning. I am the Regional News Director for CoastAlaska, and I want to welcome everybody to the Alaska Press Club Conference. I work with half a dozen public radio stations, mostly in Southeast Alaska, and I'm also a board member for the Alaska Press Club. Today's virtual session is on Pinpoint. It's a free program for journalists that we're going to be hearing about. And it's a research program that helps you manage the mess. I want to thank everybody for joining us and for your membership for Alaska Press Club. That helps us get grant funding to put on events like this, as well as the conference and our annual awards. And speaking of the conference that's coming up later this month, awards will be taking place at the Nave in Anchorage on the evening of April 22nd. You can get tickets for that on our website, and they are cheaper in advance. It's $25 now if you get your awards banquet tickets, and that will be going up to $35 at the event. So during this webinar this morning, we encourage everyone to ask questions. We're going to be monitoring that through the chat channel, and we'll also hopefully have opportunity for you to ask questions as well. Before I turn it over to our guest, Colleen Kimmett, I wanted to thank the many partners that we have, that Alaska Press Club has. The Atwood Foundation supports us through the Alaska Center for Excellence in Journalism Fund. So we want to put a thank you out to them as well. Now I'm going to introduce our guest, Colleen Kimmett. Colleen is a teaching fellow with Google News Lab. She spent most of her journalism career as a reporter and editor at the Tyee, which is a Canadian online news magazine. She's also freelanced with various publications around the world. Prior to taking this role with Google, Colleen worked as a science communication instructor at McGill University. So with that, Colleen, I'll turn it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Angela. It's great to be here. I'll just do a sound check. We sound okay? I sound okay? Okay, great. And yeah, it's lovely to be here. I'm just going to jump right into it. I'll share my screen. I think you'll see the video briefly, but I'll flip into my presentation. Angela, does this look okay? You can see Google News Lab, Pinpoint, my name at the bottom.
Yep.
Okay. So this is me. Feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. My email is just my last name, Kimmett@google.com. And I'm also on Twitter at Colleen Kimmett. Angela, I will send out links in an email to you if you like, as well as I'll drop them in the chat as I go. If just a way of people getting access to all of these links at the end. This is a website where you can find more training modules from the News Lab and the Google News Initiative, g.co/news training on Pinpoint, but also lots of other topics. All right, let's jump into it. Pinpoint. Pinpoint is, and sorry, I'm just going to put this in the chat. I realize I have to stay in my screen in order for you to see the same thing I'm looking at. Pinpoint, I compare it to a Google Drive. You need a Google account or a Gmail account to get a Pinpoint account, but it's free. There is no cost. So basically, it's a tool that allows you to analyze large collections of documents. So like a Drive has a folder, Pinpoint has collections. You can upload up to 200,000 files into a collection, so it's quite large. One of the main features of Pinpoint is that it allows you to search your collection for keywords. So you can quickly search through all the text in different file types in your collection for keywords or even key phrases, and I'll demonstrate these. Pinpoint also does transcription. So when you upload an audio or a video file into a Pinpoint collection, it automatically generates a time-stamped transcription. Pinpoint also does an automatic entity collection, entity recognition. So again, I'll show you this, how it actually looks in a collection. But as you upload files to a Pinpoint collection, it automatically pulls out and shows you frequently occurring people names and place names and organization names. So that's another aspect to the search function that you can do. I'm just going to scroll down this to the bottom and show you at the very end here. You can request access to Pinpoint. Again, you need a Google or Gmail account first, but once you do, you can click here to get access and then get in and start creating your first collection. So I'll show you my homepage. So each of these is a different collection that I've added. I'm going to show you first off this one, TRC. This stands for Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So Canada had a residential school system and it's undergoing a process of uncovering truths and realities and lived experiences. This commission website has different reports, documents, audio, video that they've filed on their website that's publicly available. So I downloaded those and uploaded them through here, adding documents. I can add from your Google Drive if you've got them directly, or just from your hard drive. So from the source, I can't, of the files, whether that's a website, if it's a website, I can't get directly from the source to my Pinpoint collection. I have to first download to my Google Drive or to my hard drive. So you can see here, this is not a huge collection, just 32 documents. Some images. These are labels that I've created, that I've made up, and then use them to label different documents. So there is no automatic or instant labels. I have to click on this label document to start adding labels. I can rename documents once they're already in a Pinpoint collection. So this is important because sometimes a string of numbers like this is not very helpful. If I want to have a more usable or searchable collection experience, maybe I want to rename them as they come in. So automatically, as I started uploading these documents, these files, Pinpoint generates this entity list on the side of my collection. So these are, again, proper names, people names, organizations, and I can search within these entities as well, and locations. That's automatic. That happens at the side of every collection. I see this entity list. So I can start here. I can say, okay, I want to see immediately. I can see, particularly in a large collection of documents or files, maybe a freedom of information request. This can give me clues about what's in there, what's worth investigating. Who are the people showing up in this collection? So if I click on a name here, it pulls out the documents in which that name appears. And then I can go into one of these documents and click through the mentions to see exactly where and in what context. From this view as well, from inside, looking at a document in my collection, I can also label it here. Or I can open it in a new tab. I can copy a link to this document. I can download the original file, rename it as well, or delete it. Now, let's say I want to see in my collection of documents, has Robert Hoey appeared in the same place as the Mohawk Institute Residential School. This is one limitation. I can see where two entities have appeared in the same document, but I can't necessarily see if they've appeared in the same paragraph or the same sentence. So each of these is just one or the other of my entities. Up here in the search bar, I can search for a proper name, a person, you know, or a place if I want to. I've noticed in certain collections that if a name only appears once, it doesn't necessarily show up in this list. So if you are looking for a specific name, you don't see it in your entity list, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not there. It might just be mentioned once or very infrequently, so it's not collected here. But I can search for words like lunch. So without quotations, this will return synonyms. So you can see here, it's giving me results where dining shows up, lunch, lunches, meal. If I want to search just for lunch, I would put it in quotations like you do an exact phrase in Google search. Or if I wanted to search for a term broadly, but to exclude a synonym, I could search like this. So I'm saying, okay, give me meal or lunch or dinner or dining, but I don't want to see breakfast. And it will show me results where synonyms for meal or meal show up, but not breakfast. Or I can search for exact phrases as well. One of the reasons I chose this collection is because it's got a lot of it's got a lot of historical documents. So I know that Big Eddy is the name of one residential school. And you can see here, it's reading the words Big Eddy in this handwritten text in a scanned document along with some photos. So it's reading, it uses optimal character recognition to read text that's not in a, well, to read handwriting or scanned text that shows up in a photograph or an image. I'll show you another one similar. This is a handwriting sample that I submitted. If the handwriting is neat, it will read it very well. Messier handwriting, the handwriting I might use to take notes in the field, for example. I tried a much messier handwriting sample. It didn't pick up much there, but it's pretty powerful. That should be Crosby. Here's another image. So this is reading the text, the typewritten text in a scanned photograph, in the caption of a scanned photograph. I'll pause there and see if there are any questions before I go on.
Yes, Colleen, we do have a question. Amy has a question, and maybe Amy can ask it herself.
Hi, yes, I can do that now. Like magic. Okay, I'm Amy Buschatz. I'm a reporter and editor, and I run the site military.com. So I'm wondering, as a paranoid reporter, what the privacy assurances are around this, because if I say to my team, hey, we're doing a report on, we're doing this news gathering on national security, let's all store it in Pinpoint, they're going to be like, you're crazy. So what are the, privacy protections around using this?
Yeah, well, for that, I'll point you to just the Pinpoint FAQ page where they get into that. I mean, I think ultimately it's a decision that you want to make for yourself, but you can find there on the help section, Pinpoint additional terms and services. I believe it's on that page. If it's not, Angela, I can make sure the privacy security information link gets to you and you can share that. Certainly they're like it's if you use Google Drive in your reporting or for any kind of reporting projects, it's as safe as your Google Drive, and you can't make a collection public. The documents in your collection are private to your account, to your Pinpoint account. So no one else can access your Pinpoint account unless you explicitly give them permission.
So a newsroom maybe could share if they wanted to within the same newsroom if there were multiple people working on a investigation, for example.
At the moment, one person can own an account. This came up in another recent session. So there, at the moment, only the person who owns the Pinpoint account can add any documents. So if I share somebody to my Pinpoint collection, if I give them permission, they can only view my Pinpoint collection. They can't download anything at the moment. They can't add any of their own documents to that collection. But I believe that feature is being discussed as a feature to add. Certainly, it would make it more convenient to in a newsroom setting. But right now, in my collections, they're private. Nobody can access them. Nobody else can see them unless I explicitly add them the way I would in a Google Drive.
So it sounds like if you're comfortable having something in email, like a Gmail, or having something on your Google Drive, it's about the same kind of comfort in security.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the level. I don't know enough about the level of security to make a direct comparison or like a hierarchical comparison to a Google Drive. But it is secure and subject to the same security principles that your personal Gmail is or that your Google Drive is. Any other questions?
Did that answer your question, Amy?
Yeah, actually just one follow-up on that though. Well, and you just said that you aren't super well up on this, so maybe you don't even know, and that's fine. But the difference between using a free service, Google free service, and a paid service, my understanding is those come with different security protections. So I would say, for example, we're using like a Google Workplace service that is paid, not like the free Drive. And we do that specifically for the security. So anyway, so that would just be my follow-up question on that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. And yeah, I suppose perhaps that's not a comparison I should make, but Amy, I can certainly connect you to like a Pinpoint product person. I can they're quite good about taking questions from newsrooms. And I know they're interested in hearing from newsrooms, so I can connect you directly with a Pinpoint person who can answer the more technical questions about security and how it would compare to your workspace security.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. All right, let me jump back into it. So just in terms of sort of use cases for Pinpoint, I'll show you a couple that I've created. This is a Pinpoint collection of City Council meeting minutes. So this is all publicly available information. I went to the city's website. I used a batch link downloader to grab 2 years worth of links to City Council meeting minutes. This idea came to me from a municipal reporter who said that she started a Pinpoint collection just every week when a new meeting minutes came out. She would add it to her collection and was creating this searchable archive. So for example, seeing when this phrase comes up and how it comes up. If I find, for example, an interesting document where this person has declared a conflict of interest, I could add this tag to it And in this way, I'm kind of creating my own archive of easily searchable, divided by theme or area of interest, tagged by theme or area of interest, that I can either build the story with or be able to access quickly if something comes up in the news. You know, a particular company name, for instance. So just in terms of, I think Pinpoint is often, there's interesting use cases of where it's been used to analyze and to see commonly appearing names or organizations within a huge, you know, ATIP document dump, for instance, but it can also be useful in kind of building your own more niche archives. I know another reporter who, a smaller magazine, who used it to just create a searchable archive of their own scanned back issues. I'll show you the transcription function. So this is our videos that I downloaded from YouTube. These are politicians speaking on clips of their own YouTube or Facebook, videos on their own Facebook pages. When I upload a video or audio file, it first converts it to audio if it's video, and then automatically generates a time-stamped transcription. So journalists who use this a lot have told me it's as good as other AI transcription tools that they've tried, which is to say not perfect. I've seen small errors in my own transcriptions can affect the quality depending on the audio itself or if the person has an accent. I have the ability here to play it along. I can click play here at the bottom and hear the audio. And then I can also edit as I go. For example, this transcription, it doesn't identify between speakers. So in this case, if I'm listening along to the audio, I could identify, okay, this was the reporter speaking. I could make a correction if something is misspelled or if the word is wrong. There's more on the supported file types and sizes in this FAQ section. For audio and video, the maximum file size is 8 gigabytes or 2 hours of audio. And for files, the maximum size is 1 gigabyte. If you upload a file bigger than that, though, it can split it up into smaller PDF documents. So in terms of sort of the basic Pinpoint functions, those are the three main things I wanted to point out. So reading handwritten or typed text or scanned text, the transcription feature, just doing the entity search or searching for keywords or phrases. And I'll point out as well that Pinpoint supports other languages. So I can upload documents in a number of different languages, I think more than 24 at this point. There's a smaller number of languages, but still growing, that I can transcribe, that I can upload audio or video for, and it will transcribe these languages. I showed you the label function as well. Again, it can be useful if you're working, if you have more than one person accessing a collection to quickly see what's in there and how it's organized. The other new feature of Pinpoint is the extract structured data function. So once you have a Pinpoint account, you can, if you're a journalist, request access to this extract structured data function. You can see this button will appear down on the left-hand side of your collection. So this is a way to how to put it, extract data or fields or values that you choose from document with some kind of structure. So in this example, and this is a very clean example, I'll show you some messier forms and how it works on those, but an example of a structured form. So each of these PDFs has a file for a different country, but each of the files follows the same structure like this. And there's more information. There's a table, heads of state. So I can click here, extract structured data. It brings me to a sample document in my collection, usually always the first document in the collection. So Afghanistan in this case, this is known as the golden document, but I can change that to another document in my collection if I want to. But when you're making a collection for this data extraction feature, the thing is that all of the documents should have the same structure, the same layout. So I've got really four, but really three options, three ways to extract data. The first is key value. So this is just choosing a field or a value. Let's say in this case, I've got this collection of country forms, but I only want to know the total area of each country. Total land, total water. So that's the value, the field that I want to extract. That's the key is the name of the field or the value, the total. Pinpoint will automatically try to identify the key or the name of the field. Sometimes it gets it wrong. I can edit this if I want, or I can also move this around. And I'll show you an example of when it might incorrectly identify. But here I want to pull out the total area, and then the land area, and then the water area. As I go, it lists the values and the keys. And then down here, I can see it's pulled those same values from every document in my collection. And if I extract, I can download this as a CSV file. So I get essentially this table here. And I can go on and I can do this for as many as I like. I can add the population growth. And you can see here, it will just keep adding those columns and pulling those values from each of my files. I'm going to clear those. The second way to extract data or values from a form, and therefore from the rest of the similar forms in your collection, is repeated sections. So that's if you have data organized like this, where each of these sections has the same values. So one section, two section, similar values throughout. In that case, I can click on repeated sections. It asks me to first identify where is the section and where does it repeat in yellow. That heads of state, save, and then within each of these sections, I'm back to key values, and I can tell it to pull values from within each of those sections that repeats. So in this case, if I want to know the leader, their party, and how long they were in power. And now it's pulled those same values again from each of the sections in each of the country documents. Even where you can see in Afghanistan, there's only 2 sections. Brazil has more sections, more recent heads of states identified. And it's pulled the same values from each of those. And then finally, the table function. And that's just for pulling a table like this one. So these two go together, header and footer and tables go together. Before I pull a table, I want to enable the header and just make sure that there's no text. Click and then sort of pull down. So in case there's text up here that I don't want to capture as part of the table. Enable footer, same, I do have some actual text down here, so I want to pull that up so it doesn't get captured in the table. Save changes. And then once I've kind of cleared the header and footer, I can go ahead and grab my table. I've got the option here of moving the columns. Because this is a very clear table, it doesn't require any moving, but sometimes I need to sort of manually do those, the column lines. And now here it's pulled the largest city table from each of the documents. So this is Afghanistan, but it's pulled the same table here in Brazil, etc. And then again, I would just extract and I can download my CSV file. So I will, I'm going to clear those. I'll stop for a minute and take questions, and then I can show you some more, some messier types of forms that I've experimented with in Pinpoint to get a sense of how it works with, for example, police reports, citations. Yeah, but are there any questions before I go on?
Yeah, I believe Andrew had a question, and this is backing up a little bit about transcriptions. Andrew, can you unmute and ask your question?
Yes, thank you, Angela. So you noted when you were looking at one of the transcriptions that it didn't have the speakers, but it wasn't clear from how you said it whether Pinpoint would ever generate that there are different speakers in a document. And so I know with Otter, like you can sort of teach it who the speakers are. Is there any way, I mean, would you have to enter in every single time throughout an entire transcription who each speaker is for every document, or does it ever, are there some documents where it's easier?
No, it doesn't have that capability, not at this point, to train it to either differentiate between speakers. And it has not, no, it won't differentiate between speakers. And right now, that's not a feature that it's able to do.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have a question for Colleen at this moment?
Yes, this is Diana, also regarding transcriptions. Can you directly grab, like, copy and paste out of the transcription? Because in other AI, you can't do that. You just have to download it and then grab a quote out of it. Can you do that in your way?
Yeah, I believe so. Let's take a look. So let's go to my transcript example. I think I can just highlight it here. Yep, there we go. So I can, just using my mouse, I just highlighted the section I want. I can either just highlight that to read for myself, but then I don't know if you can see the yeah, you should be able to see the dialog box here. Can you see it? It says highlight and get link to that text, or just copy the text there.
Did that answer your question, Diana?
Yes, thank you, it does.
And then I can't remember if I showed this part too, but up here in the menu, so I have the option to download the transcript, the entire thing, but I can also download the original audio file. Now, this was a video. It was a Facebook video with MP4. Pinpoint does this thing where it will convert to audio and then transcribe the audio if you upload a video. So I could only get the audio file, the audio recording, not the original video. But for other types of files, you can get the original file that was uploaded here. I can also rename documents, which is kind of nice. Sometimes I made collections where the file names are just sort of a string of numbers and initials. So it's nice to be able to rename them once you are actually in Pinpoint, as opposed to having to rename it on your hard drive and then re-upload, which was the case in the beginning. Any other questions? Okay. Let's look at some other types of structured forms. This one here is a ticket that I got for being in a canoe without a life jacket last summer. So this is what it looks like, just as sort of standard. It was a very small lake, by the way. This is a sort of standard citation ticket. It's handwritten. I luckily don't have a lot of tickets, so I just made copies. This is all the same document, but I wanted to show you how it would repeat the extraction on all of these. So let's take a look. I'm going to click extract structured data. So right of all, it flips it for me. So that's good. It recognizes it should be in this order. I can't really, I've tried, the repeated sections doesn't really work here. There isn't enough differentiation here between section A, section B, section C, section D. So pretty much my only option, and because there's no sort of standard lines or columns, pretty much my only option is to use the key value. But let's say I have, you know, a year's worth of citations like this. I want to pull data from them. I could just use the key value function here. So the name, obviously that's important. So you can see I'll highlight this. It's incorrectly identified the key or the name of this field. So I can either click this with my mouse and pull it down to where I want it. You can see here now it says name, which is the correct field. Also, this is picking up something that shouldn't be here, so I'm going to just adjust this a little more. And okay, so it's got the name. And then the description of the infraction. So this is this whole section here. I'm going to highlight this. Again, it hasn't gotten the key or the title of this field correct, so I'll move it. Now, because this field, so the text in this field overlaps with the name, you can see that I have before the description, and I'm sorry it's in French, this example, but this is sort of hard to get rid of. Because this is part of the same text box that the description appears in, the title, Description de l'infraction. I can't really do much about that, but this is, like I said, it is in French, but I can understand this using a human propulsion pleasure craft without having had on board vêtements de flotation. There's errors here in the spelling, but I can understand the description. I can understand what it's saying and what the citation is for. Let's try another field here. This is the date of the infraction. So again, this is not perfect. It looks like it's picking up some of the lines outside. The name of the officer. Again, I'll move this. So you can see this is kind of fiddly, but that being said, it has managed to grab each of those sections from each of the tickets. And here you can see just what it looks like downloaded into a PDF sheet. it also gives me the link to that document, to that file in my Pinpoint collection. So if I want to go back and check on something, I can go back to the original or the copy that Pinpoint has. I'm going to clear those and show you one more example or a couple more examples. Another form that I tried here is these are police. This was actually from an access to information, a freedom of information request. So each of these is a different report of a RCMP call, a police call. These are actually all different information. It's not just the same document copied. So if I click extract structured data, again, the section, it didn't recognize each of these headers as a repeating section. So I had to go through and grab the key value. So you can see here, dispatch type, involved persons. It's correctly identifying the name of each value, which is good. The involved addresses. Oh, not that one. Let's move that up. And let's see what else we might have here. Maybe a general report. Move that up. And then here it's grabbed those same sections, dispatch type, involved person, involved addresses. It hasn't grabbed general report from my other two documents. I would have to check on that, but it has been able to repeat most of this data extraction, most of these sections pulled from the rest of the documents in my collection. And then finally, I think it's just on a more day-to-day basis. I can see use cases here in, pulling old census data from forms, or, analyzing, again, like a whole bunch of police citations or police reports. But also just in terms of, often we find information in tables, in PDFs. I personally haven't found a great PDF table extraction tool. So this is, this is just a list that appeared on a municipal website showing remuneration and expenses. But if I wanted to really do kind of any data analysis on this, I want it in a tabular format. So I can go to extract structured data. Again, I'm going to identify the headers and footers here. This would be a clear table for me. There's the header. There's the footer, save changes. And then from here, I'm going to use my table tool. I won't scroll all the way through 22 pages, but if I'll just stop here, say. And then from here, I can adjust my columns. I can add more columns if I need one. I can delete a column if I need to. Once I get these lined up, I can choose how to extract the rows. So in this case, unlike the table in the other example, it had the lines actually marked. This doesn't, but under advanced options, I can choose how to extract the rows. In this case, I'm just going to go with each line of text is a separate row. For the columns, I've already annotated this manually, so I'll click as annotated. I save it, and then this is, my preview. And then I could download that as a CSV file. Here's what it looked like when I downloaded as a CSV and then uploaded into a sheet. So that's the data extract structured data function. Like I said, it's in beta mode. You have to request it once you have a Pinpoint account. But I know that the Pinpoint development team is eager to see how journalists are using it and get feedback on how it's working for them. Any questions?
If you have a question, you can just unmute and ask it. When I was listening to you, I was just thinking about all of the documents I've seen over the last couple decades of municipal reporting specifically, because, you know, city council or borough governments, even state government, they're every single meeting, they can have a couple hundred pages of things to keep track of. And I would say most of my career has been using a highlighter and paper and trying to keep that somewhat organized, which is really almost impossible. So I feel like this has a lot of applications for a lot of Alaska reporters who, you know, oftentimes they're in small towns covering their city council or something like that. And they still, I mean, it's meetings that are every week or every other week. And the laws are changing, the ordinances are changing, dates, but sometimes it's a topic that's been covered for many, many years. So, you know, you're always asking, what did they do 10 years ago? What did they do 5 years ago? Because they were talking kind of about the same thing. So that it's, I'm just going to say that I'm glad that this is being recorded, because there is a lot of information and on the how to, you know, and you're very, very quick. And I can see that it would be really beneficial to know how to do some of these things. Does anybody have any questions for Colleen about this Pinpoint program? Any part of what you saw?
Yeah, I just this is Diana again from Nome. I just entered in the Q&A. Is there a limit on how much data can be stored in Pinpoint? So how many, I mean, just like Dropbox, they give you so much megabytes free, and then you got to start paying up.
So there's on the support pages, they list a number of files, which is 200,000. I can find out this and include it. Well, I should say, first of all, is there a way, Angela, to email you and then to get information out to people on the call?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Because I can
put Press Club, we can disseminate that information and links.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good question. And I was looking at the help page earlier, and it gives limit sizes for each of the file types that I think I mentioned that already. But in terms of overall size, it gives it as a limit of 200,000 files. However, that is to say, you won't be charged. It's not a freemium, as they call it, service where you get charged after a certain point. And to get a Pinpoint account, you don't need to give any credit card information. You don't need to give your credit card to get an account or any like financial payment information. But yeah, so to answer in terms of limit size, storage limit size, I don't know, to be honest. Only that it's 200,000 files, depending on, I think, what type of files, could be more or less. But you won't get any surprise charges at any point. And maybe I'll just quickly, I forgot to mention this, but I should say too, even without a Pinpoint account, you can see collections that have been made public. So Pinpoint has this Explore section. I'll drop this in the chat. That even without a Pinpoint account, you can see organizations and newsrooms that have worked with Pinpoint. So this isn't, again, you can't accidentally make a collection public. So if we look at one of these, let me find an English one. This is materials from the January 6th committee hearing that AP posted for anyone to see. And you can see how they've organized it here as well. Every document has a label. Every document is labeled with one of these. And then you can search through by phrase, by location, by keyword. I don't know what kind of phrases you might want to search for this, but I think I noted this already, but Pinpoint automatically does synonym recognition. So I know for some, not any public collections, that, but I know the Boston Globe did a investigation using Pinpoint, analyzing records of military weapons to the local police department. This program that gave military weapons to local police departments. And one interesting feature about Pinpoint that they made use of was the fact that they searched for commonly known names of weapons and found synonyms that they wouldn't have known to search for that came up through the Pinpoint analysis. I know another reporter who used that to their advantage as well, reporting on using Pinpoint to help do some of their reporting on pharmaceuticals. So they were able to identify brand names or perhaps whatever the sort of generic versus the technical name of the drug would be. They were able to identify again, oh, that's also called this. And I didn't know about that until I saw this synonym here. So I will follow up with you, Amy, on the security question. And I can send you an email, Angela, just with general links for everybody. And my email is here if you think of anything right after this or in the meantime. And yeah, I can also just, it's not yet 1, so if there's any last questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you, Amy, for that.
Yeah, she's on the East Coast, 1 o'clock, right? So does anybody have any follow-up questions?
Yes, I do. Oh, am I the only one? Deanna here from Nome.
It's okay, Deanna. We're glad you're joining us from Nome.
Gee, sorry.
Oh.
Anyway, I just wonder if, in summary, you could maybe make the case for why we should turn to Pinpoint for, you know, collecting our data and using it for particular stories. Just well, give us your best sales pitch there.
My best sales pitch. Well, so I'm not a reporter right now. I'm not doing any of my own reporting. So the examples the use cases that I've thought of are coming from other reporters or me imagining how I might use it as a reporter. I would say in summary, making a searchable archive for yourself, whether that's your own articles, whether that's all the reporting from a certain newspaper, I mean, on a certain topic, whether that's city council meeting minutes, whether that's a company's financial filings. Obviously, that takes time to create a collection. You have to go and gather the links. But I would say, sort of in a nutshell, making a customized searchable archive of whatever topic you're interested in, but also thinking about a Pinpoint collection as a growing and evolving archive. So adding to your collection as you go, if there's a topic or a company or anyone filing information that you want to keep track of. That's the first one. The second sort of general why use this is for ATIP, access to information, these kind of document or data dumps that you might get as a journalist, and being able to quickly see at a glance what are the frequently occurring people and organization and places that show up in there. Also, the synonym search function, like I mentioned, a couple of specific use cases where that in particular was useful for an investigation. I'm working on a book proposal. I started a Pinpoint, just on my personal time, on my spare time, I started a Pinpoint collection with all of my research documents, and it's been useful in finding that article that I know I saved. But I don't remember the name of the article. I don't remember the author of the article. I only remember that it mentioned something about XYZ. So if I have it in a Pinpoint collection, I can search for that little phrase or those keywords and find the original source document. And then transcription too. A free transcription tool, I think, is pretty, again, with the limitation of the speakers, not being able to identify the speakers. But I know one Mexican publication recorded and uploaded to Pinpoint audio every time a politician they were following spoke. And using that transcript, they were able to more easily fact check the things they were saying. So search for key phrases within all of their transcripts, and then search for where there had been misleading or not factual.
Thank you so much, Colleen, for being our guest today for Alaska Press Club and walking us through the Pinpoint program. We did record this session for those who couldn't make it today, or those who would like to revisit this later on. We're going to be sharing that probably after the in-person conference. It'll be on the website. And our next virtual session is going to be next Thursday, April 13th. It's called But Is It a Podcast? With Courtney Harrell. And the topic is, if you have a story or a topic and you think it might be a good podcast series, narrative podcast producer Courtney Harrell of Pineapple Street Studios will be talking about the elements that make a series work or not work. Again, we want to thank the Atwood Foundation. They're a huge supporter of journalism in Alaska. And we hope to see everyone at the in-person conference in Anchorage. That's going to be April 20th for Radio Day, April 21st and 22nd for the rest of the conference. And you can get all of those details online, including the draft agenda. So check it out. Thanks again so much, Colleen. I hope everybody has a great day.